Welcome to the tutorial video for Gempire Zarmund's demands. You and the other players are in King Zarmund's competition to build his new capital city of the Gempire. He will make 3 random demands, and you will be the lead architect of Ireton, Caberthay, Jalarnam, Valisona, or Yadix Toll, trying to be the first to meet any 2 of those demands to win the game. Let's set up the game and go from there. Pass each player a culture flag, palace token, marker, and dry erase planning book. This book is where you'll plan your turns and keep track of your progress throughout the game. Set up the building board, science board, and palace reward keeper like this, and put together the dice tray. Then unscrew the gem jars and spread the lids around so that everyone has easy access to them. Get out the gray plastic production tokens and put some of them in each of the lids you set out earlier. Also get out the palace level tokens and the second row tokens. Now shuffle the building card deck and put it face down on the empty end of the building board. Flip up the top 3 cards and put them face up, one under A, one under B, and one under C. Also flip up the card on top of the deck. Last, give each player their own set of small wooden cubes and put 1 cube for each player underneath the number 1 on the science board. Now we're ready for the fun part of the setup that's going to make every game of Gempire different from the next. The cards that look like this are the technology cards. Every time you play, there will be a different combination of 5 technologies that all the players can use to help them win the game. Shuffle the technology cards deck, choose 5 at random, and put them face up next to the science board like this. The cards that look like this are Zarmund's demands, or in other words, the victory conditions. Every game you play, there will be a different combination of 3 Zarmund's demands, and you're trying to get 2 of them to win the game. Shuffle the Zarmund's demands deck, and choose 3 at random, and put them face up above the building board like this, and use the 1, 2, and 3 tokens to number them. Last are the palace reward tokens that look like this. Every game, there will be a different combination and order of these rewards that will tell you what you'll earn when you upgrade your palace to certain levels. Out of these 17 tokens, choose 5 at random and put them in the palace reward keeper in order from 1 to 5. Now that you're done setting up the game, let's introduce you to the basics. Let's go through these 5 things. First, we have the resources. You will be collecting 2 different resources in this game. Production will allow you to build more buildings and upgrade your city. Science allows you to discover technologies that give you special perks. Now we move on to the buildings. Players can use their production to construct buildings when they appear on the building board in spaces A, B, or C. When you construct a new building in your city, it's going to either increase your city's population, gold, or culture, each of which will help you in different ways, and very rarely buildings might award you science. As you get more science, you will discover new technologies that give you special abilities. The same 5 technologies will be available for every player throughout the game, but the available technologies will change from game to game. The planning books are where all the players will write down the next action they want to take. They'll keep their decisions hidden until everyone is ready and then reveal what they chose to do. They'll also keep track of their city's population, gold, and culture stats in these books. There will be 3 random victory conditions, or Zarmund's demands, every game that apply to every player. In order to win, you need to meet any 2 of these 3. Just be aware that when you meet one, it doesn't go away, it remains in play for the other players to meet as well. Let's look at how a round works in Gempire. All rounds will have the same 3 steps. Someone rolls the resource dice, everyone chooses one of 3 actions in their planning book, and then all players reveal at the same time and resolve those actions. Then the dice are passed to the next player and the next round begins. The 3 actions you can take are collect resources, bid on buildings, and upgrade your city. Let's go through each one of them separately. The first action you can take is to collect resources. At the start of every round, somebody will be rolling the resource dice. The result represents the resources that are available for all players to take that round. For instance, every single player who chose to take resources this round would collect 4 production tokens and would move their cube up 2 on the science track. To collect resources, just write the number of production and science you're taking in the respective places in your planning book. When 1 or more wilds are rolled, you may choose to take them each as a production or science. Every player starts the game with a maximum capacity of 5 production. Therefore, if you have 3 and you try to take 4, you can only add 2 coins to your stash. You cannot change the leftover production to science. The second action you can take is to bid on buildings using your production. Every round there will be 3 building cards available in the A, B, and C spaces on the building board. These cards are awarded every round to the players who bid the most production to build them. If you have production to spend and you want to build one or more of the cards available, write your bids for them in the A, B, and C spaces in your planning book. You can bid on any number of buildings, but you can't bid a total of, let's say, 5 if you only have 4 production. You cannot hide your production tokens from other players. Every building card has a number in the bottom right corner. This is the minimum amount of production you must bid for that card. When everyone reveals their actions, compare your bids, grab any buildings that you want, and place them in your city, which is just the area in front of you. Also, pay any production you bid to win those buildings. Refill any empty spots with cards from the deck, and be sure to flip up the next card on top. Cards that were not awarded remain for the next round. For every card you place a bid on and lose, you lose 1 production. In the case of a tie, the player with more science gets the card. If both players are tied in science, both players lose 1 production and the card is discarded. The third action you can take is to upgrade your city in one of 2 ways, but we need to go over some other important things first before we dive into exactly how to do that. When you win a bid on 1 or more buildings, you'll need to place them in your city. They'll help you in one of 3 attributes: population, gold, or culture, represented by these colors and symbols. Everyone starts with a total of 0 in all 3 attributes. As you add more building cards to your city, you'll update the totals in your planning book. Let's say you start the game off by getting a guardhouse and a mill. You'll write a 7 in your population space and a 4 in your gold space. If you then win a jewelry shop, you'll erase the 4 in your gold space and write 15. Some buildings have values that depend on other things. For instance, this racetrack says it's worth 4 culture plus another 1 culture per gold building to the right of it. So if you place it here, it'll have a total value of 6 and you'll write a 6 in your culture space. Notice that these gold buildings do not need to be immediately to the right of it, but rather just anywhere to the right of it. If you place more gold buildings to the right of it, the value of the racetrack will continue to increase. Some cards may not have an attribute value, but are instead worth more than 1 building of the specified type. This brothel is worth 4 culture buildings. It is not worth 4 culture. This trading post is worth 7 gold and 3 gold buildings. If you place it here, it will not only give you 7 gold, but it will increase your racetrack by 3. Your totals now should be 7 population, 22 gold, and 9 culture. Last, some cards are called hybrids, meaning they have 2 different attributes on them, but you can only use them for one or the other. When you play a hybrid in your city, turn it so that the chosen attribute's color is at the top of the card. For example, play the vineyard this way if you want 9 gold. Play it this way if you want 7 culture. You cannot change a hybrid's type after you place it in your city. Every time you reach or surpass a multiple of 10 in a city attribute, you will earn a gem of the corresponding color. Earn your first when you reach at least 10, your second when you reach at least 20, and so on. All 3 colors do something different for you, and after you earn them, you keep them for the rest of the game. So let's go through what all 3 of them do for you. As stated earlier, everyone starts the game with the maximum capacity of 5 production. Every population gem raises this capacity by 1, so if you have 3 population gems, you can hold up to 8 production. Every gold gem you own allows you to switch 1 production to a science, or vice versa when you take resources. If 2 production and 3 science are rolled, you have 1 gold gem and you choose to take resources, you can instead choose to take 3 production and 2 science, 1 production and 4 science, or choose not to use it and take the original 2 production and 3 science. Notice you can only change 1 resource per gold gem, not an entire die result. On a round where your gold gems outnumber the resources rolled, the extra gems can create resources of your choice. For example, if you have 5 gold gems and 2 production is rolled, each of the 3 extra gold gems can create a resource of your choice. Be aware that you can only create resources when your gold gems outnumber the resources rolled, otherwise you can only switch them. Every time you earn a culture gem, you are granted accelerated progress towards 1 Zarmund's demand of your choice. After you earn 1, you must immediately play it on 1, 2, or 3 on your culture flag. The numbers on the culture flag correspond with the number tokens that were used to identify the demands for that game. Every demand has a culture bonus listed on the bottom that tells you what benefit you'll receive if you use a culture gem for that demand. For demands like numbers 1 and 2, you'll get the bonus for every 1 gem you place on that number. For demands like number 3, you'll get the bonus for every 3 gems you place on that number. Once you place a culture gem on your flag, you're not allowed to move it for the rest of the game. Make sure to read about each demand's culture bonus in the Compendium of Zarmund's demands in the back of the rulebook before you start each game. Let's look at where to place buildings when you put them in your city. Cards will be placed horizontally in rows, and every new card will be placed immediately to the right or left of the ones already in your city. Every player starts the game with one row in their city, and each row in your city has room for 3 districts. Let's go over what a district is. A district is a group of adjacent buildings of the same color in the same row. You may have 2 districts of the same color in the same row, although this would severely limit your future options. Districts will force you to make some difficult decisions. For example, when placing your first card of the last color in a row, you'll have to decide whether to cut off one attribute or the other. It's totally up to you if or when you decide to do this. There's no limit to how large a district can be. Once you place cards in your city, you cannot move them. Now let's go back to the third action you can choose, upgrading your city, which you can do in one of 2 ways, building a second row or upgrading your palace. A second row costs 5 production. Take a second row tile and keep it for the rest of the game. From that point on, you can choose to place any future cards in the second row or in the first row. The second row gives you 3 completely separate districts to work with. They do not have to match the size or color of the ones in the first row. The first card you place in the second row can go anywhere, but you still must place new cards in the second row immediately to the left or right of that card. In order to build a second row, write second row in this area in the planning book. You cannot extend your second row past the edges of your first row, but you can make your first row larger in order to make your second row larger. Also, cards with directional effects, like the racetrack, will be increased by cards in both rows. However, when a card says adjacent, it means any card directly to the left, right, above, or below it. It is not possible to build a third row. Now let's get into palace upgrades. Everyone starts with a level 0 palace. Upgrading to level 1 costs 5 production. Level 2 costs 6 production, and so on. Keep track of your palace's level with the number tokens provided. So keep in mind that you can only hold more than 5 production if you have population gems. To upgrade your palace as your action, write Palace X in this space where X is the level you're upgrading to. Now let's go over what you'll get for it. These tokens represent the rewards you'll get for upgrading your palace from levels 1 to 5. Every single time you upgrade your palace, you get the reward for the level you upgraded to and all the ones below it. You can skip levels when upgrading your palace. For instance, you can go straight from level 0 to level 3 by spending 7 production, and then straight to level 5 by spending 9 more production. But keep in mind that you can't backtrack, so once you upgrade it to level 5, you can't upgrade it again for the rest of the game. Now what do each of the palace reward tokens do? First off, the ones that have nothing on them, well, give you nothing. This token gives you 8 science. To figure out how much science these tokens give you, you'll first have to count the amount of science symbols in your city. These tokens will either give you 1 or 2 science per symbol. These tokens will give you 1, 2, or 3 palace diamonds, which are the small clear diamonds in the 4th jar. When you receive 1 or more palace diamonds, you must play them immediately. You may place your first diamond of the game on any card in your city. Every diamond you place after that must be on a card immediately left, right, above, or below one that already has a diamond on it. You can also place them on cards that already have a diamond. When you place a diamond onto a card that has at least 1 diamond symbol, the value of that card is doubled for the rest of the game. For cards with 2 diamond symbols in the bottom left corner, if you get a second diamond onto that card, the value is tripled for the rest of the game. However, you cannot place 2 diamonds on the same card in the same upgrade. If you want to get a second diamond on a card, you will need to upgrade your palace a second time. Palace diamonds do not count as gems when regarding demands and technologies. Also, once you place palace diamonds, you cannot move them. If you are really stacked on population, you can build any number of city upgrades on the same turn. As you gather more science, you'll be able to use it to discover new technologies. The numbers at the bottom of each technology card is how much science you need to discover that technology. If you have enough science saved up, you can choose to discover 1 or more technologies in the Resolve Actions part of the turn. Do this by placing one of your small cubes on the cheapest price available. If another player would also like to discover the same technology on the same turn, they can also get it for the same price. The science board is used to keep track of your total science gathered throughout the game. That total number is the tiebreaker when bidding on buildings. But since this board represents the total science gathered throughout the game, you do not move your cube back down the track when you discover a technology. Just be aware that science you use to discover one technology cannot be used to discover another. Therefore, if you already discovered a technology worth 20 and you wanted another one worth 10, you would have to have a total of at least 30 science. You can always read more about technologies in more detail in the back of the rulebook. Let's go over a few details about Zarmund's demands. First off, in order to win, you must meet at least 2 Zarmund's demands simultaneously at the end of the resolve actions part of the turn. This means that other players can find a way to resolve their actions in a way that keeps you from winning. When you see a demand that has numbers in an XYZ format, use the correct number for a 3, 4, or 5 player game. Also, demands will always refer to cards, not buildings. Regardless of how many buildings a card is worth, for example the brothel is worth 4 buildings, it is still only worth 1 card. Every demand has an ID number in the top left corner. Use these numbers to look them up in the Compendium of Zarmund's demands to clarify any issues. There are 3 demands with an asterisk next to this ID number. If you choose all 3, redraw the last one. Once we go over these last few important rules, you'll be ready to start. Everyone starts the game with 5 total resources. This is any combination of production and science you want. Write how much production and science you want to start with in your planning book and reveal when everyone is ready. Do this after every part of the game has been set up, and before the first roll. Once you collect those resources, the first roll is made and the game begins. Also, everyone has the ability to save 1 card as a blueprint. This means that when you win a card on a bid, you can keep it inactive until you play it in your city in the future. To do this, turn the card 90 degrees and keep it away from the rest of your city. Once you place that card in your city, which you do in the resolve action step of the turn, you may save another card as a blueprint. You are allowed to place a blueprinted card and replace it with another one you want on the same turn. And last, if multiple players win on the same turn, the amount of gems breaks the tie. If they are still tied, use palace level, then use science. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a great time playing Gempire. You can find clarifications for building cards in the back of the rulebook. And if you want to see Gempire in action, I'll be putting out a video for that soon. If you want more updates about the game and the Kickstarter beginning soon, you can sign up on my website, which is gemtimegames.com, or keep in touch on social media. All these links will be in the description.